Welcome back to another episode of the IAA Mobility Visionary Club. Today is all about design, and you can't talk about design and mobility without talking to Thomas Ingenlath. With his background in design, including more than a decade at the Volkswagen Group and a 5-year stint at Volvo, Thomas has a strong perspective on automotive. And as CEO of Polestar, he's one of just a handful of designers who's made the big leap to the C-suite. We are so pleased to have him here on the Visionary Club. Thomas Ingenlath, thank you for being our guest.
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot for inviting me. And yeah, happy to be here and talk about design.
Great. Let me ask you every designer's favorite question. What is good design to you?
Yeah, that's a very, very wide question. And good design, I mean, Jesus, I'm definitely not the one who would let it all too wide. I'm very, very strict about design being something that has to follow basic rules and ideas about proportion, about making functions easy to understand, having a meaning in a cultural context. And I would definitely expect from design to have a very, very serious aspect of long life quality. To me, that was always the difference between making good design and being in the marketing advertisement arena, where it's all much more fast and, you know, one day hip, one day out. Design to me was always something that took that quality of being thought through, being really relevant over a good period of time. And for that aspect, a real premium factor. So that's how I would put design on a very high level of terms of where it has to prove itself to be a good design.
All right, high standards for design. Speaking of high levels, Thomas, you have made it to the very highest level. You're one of just a few CEOs who have a design background. Why aren't there more of you?
Yeah, very good question. In the beginning, I was always quite careful about this question about being a designer, becoming a CEO. And of course, as a CEO, you have to have a lot of other management understanding of how a company works and stuff. Having said that, by now, I really would be that bullish to ask, which other profession than the profession of a designer prepares you better to lead a company in terms of innovation for the future? Thinking about how are you set up as a company for successful business. Yes, there are economic questions, there are technology questions, but what matters the most today is about understanding where society, where culture, where customers are going, what are the circumstances for your company to be successful in that field in the future. And I think as a designer, you're actually very, very well equipped in terms of being visionary about what are the trends in the future, what are the customer opinions in the future, and having that earlier on your radar than any statistic can tell you.
So say more about that, how being a designer might help you in your role as a CEO. You mentioned being a visionary and having a sense of where things are going, but what other advantages does it provide? And perhaps get honest with us for a second. Where does it sometimes hold you back?
One very special thing, the brand Polestar, where we, of course, have design as the one strongest pillar of our company. I will go to that in a second. The first one, just generally being able to analyze where technology comes in, where consumers understanding technology and how you make successful products. There, indeed, for whatever company you are, the idea of what the designer has been taught and trained at is definitely a big help in order to steer a company into the right way in the future. And that will be, even if design is now not the prime focus on you, of your car company, it's definitely not anymore defining what special technology you invented, but it's much more about how you make the technology that is available useful for the customer. And that bridge, that interpretation of technology is something that you have been trained at as a designer. In terms of Polestar, I mean, of course, there's such a high focus that not just the product, but each and every aspect of our company radiates this very, very high ambition and level of design and aesthetics. And indeed, even without having it on the agenda, there are each and every day topics coming in my agenda, onto my table, where I say, yeah, but Jesus, this is Polestar doing it. And if we do this or that, then definitely we have to cherish the aesthetic aspect of it, how we speak about something, the language about it, how it appears into our customer eyes. That's where I can influence our company that much more in terms of maintaining that high ambition when it comes to design and aesthetics throughout the whole touch points with the company. Okay. It would be very difficult to make that in an agenda where you say, oh, these topics have to go through the brand and marketing team or design team. You would miss out on 50% minimum of these things because naturally they wouldn't go through that department. So indeed, me as a CEO, having that very, very strong eye and naturally reacting on these things helps to get that very, very deeply anchored. It would be very difficult to make an organization constructed that way that it naturally always would go through that process. Me being a CEO and having that background just makes that very unique way of working possible.
Thomas, true or false? Polestar is a design-first company.
True.
Short and sweet, I like it. What do you wish you had known before you became CEO?
It's almost like with each and every project. It's really good that you, in the beginning, don't know what you all have to go through. Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you climb a mountain, it's very clear. I mean, you have an idea, yes, I want to get to that goal. And if you would know all the obstacles, all the effort and everything in the very beginning, my God, it would be very difficult to start that journey.
Indeed.
When they come along the way, you take them one by one and it's fine. But of course, you don't want to see that big mountain ahead of you. You just take step after step.
Let's talk about that big mountain that you climbed. Tell us about the biggest lesson from your journey from a chief design officer to CEO.
Well, I appreciate a lot that opportunity of doing this job now, because obviously there is another dimension, that insights of what you can do for this company, where you have your limits achieving that as a designer. Creating a company, creating that culture, creating that value of where people go and have passion for a brand that even didn't exist a couple of years ago. That's certainly something which only comes now as an opportunity with this job, and learning beyond shaping a product, really learning how to shape a company is a very new dimension.
You're German. You're working in Scandinavia, in Sweden at the moment. How has your experience changing country and experiencing a new culture influenced the way you think about design, but also about leadership and in your CEO role? What have you learned being in Sweden?
Being in Sweden, going to another country, working in another culture is just one of the elements of what I think I could recommend to each and everybody. You being pushed into a new situation, you having to cope with a different environment working in. You learn more and more, and you reach beyond borders that you would not have reached if you just are stuck in that that room where you have moved so far. And definitely in the role that you have as a designer, learning more and more enables you to achieve completely different things that you wouldn't have achieved a year ago, and see things and understand things. So a different culture gives you immediately as well a different relation to your own nationality, and you learn how to use your character in a much better way, use the positive things to the advantage, actually balance and learn how to control the negative aspects of your nationality and the way you have been brought up and your character. I think that is really a very good way if you're being pushed into new waters. You just simply learn how to swim in a much stronger way.
I know that being CEO at Polestar is a huge job, but I imagine you still have a designer's eye. So I'd like to ask you, what is one object or product in the world, it can be absolutely anything, that you wish you had designed?
Okay. Trying to not be here too much cliche. I definitely admire what has been achieved with when Mies van der Rohe did the Barcelona pavilion. I mean, such a masterpiece, and this type of elegance achieved with just a couple of straight walls. Yeah, that would be nice to have in your portfolio.
A good answer. And Thomas, maybe as a last question, what do you hope that people are saying about Polestar's designs in 10, 20, 50 years? What would be the ultimate compliment?
I definitely would be very charmed at some point. People would talk about the cars that we created. And now I'm really talking about, you know, in very far in the future, people looking at our cars and calling them a classic. If we would be able to create a classic, I think that would be a great achievement.
Indeed it would. Thomas, I wish you the best of luck on that journey. Thank you for being our guest today on the IAA Mobility Visionary Club. It was such a pleasure having you. Good luck to you in Sweden.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the IAA Mobility Visionary Club. If you're interested in the intersection of design and mobility, we've got a couple more episodes you might be interested in, including a conversation between an automotive CEO and a designer talking frankly about what they wish the other one would maybe do a little differently. That's coming up next time on the IAA Mobility Visionary Club. I'll see you soon.